This once high-spirited kid is now staring down a sentence that's left fans speechless. Behind all the diamonds and social media flexing, he was secretly running moves that spiraled into his downfall. The reality of what caused his crash and burn is darker than most realize, and we're breaking it all down. The legal storm surrounding King Harris is wild. What's good, fam? We're diving deep into some real hip-hop turbulence that's been shaking the game. We're talking about King Harris, T.I.'s son, and how this youngin went from growing up in luxury to catching charges and publicly clashing with his own mother. But this ain't just some spoiled kid willed in out. This story cuts deep into culture, pride, and how keeping it real can turn into a full-blown disaster. Before we get started, though, let's keep it a buck. The internet been willed in. Social media flooded with rumors about King getting locked up for years, jumped behind bars, all that noise. But we're here to clear it all up. What's real, what's cap? Because honestly, the truth about King's situation is already crazy enough without the rumors.
I'm kind, energetic, nice dude, man.
My name King, you know it, and your mama know it. On game what? On game what? Come here, come.
Let's rewind to October 14th, 2024, the day everything flipped for King Harris. He was cruising through Dulwich, Georgia, probably thinking it was just another chill night, when boom, he almost sideswiped a police cruiser pulling out of a gas station. The cop stopped him for failing to yield, caught a whiff of weed, and spotted a firearm on his hip. Now hold up, this wasn't no case of police targeting. King kept it solid from the start. Calm, respectful, no resistance. Just caught lacking. But here's where the story takes a wild twist. When they ran his info, the system lit up. King had an active bench warrant from Pickens County tied to charges from August 2022. Speeding, driving on a suspended license, and being under the influence. Basically, bro had been dodging court for 2 years like it had just faded away. But that's not how life works. Officers said they smelled marijuana from his ride, found a gun on his left hip, and pulled out 2 little baggies of weed during the search. Now, everyone knows stops like that can go south real fast, but King stayed cool. The cop took the gun peacefully, cuffed him, and that was it. No extra drama. He didn't try to flex or act hard, just took it like a man. But that's where the story gets deeper. See, King's been on a mission to prove he's not just T.I.'s rich son. He's been trying to earn his stripes, talking heavy about standing on business and showing his built for the streets. He said he spent a lot of time living with his grandma in a rough part of Atlanta, trying to experience the real world outside of that celebrity bubble. And then came the family mess. While King was in DeKalb County Jail waiting to be sent to Pickens, his mom Tiny hit social media and aired him out. On live, she said her boy ain't got good sense and ain't got all his marbles. Imagine your own mama saying that while you're behind bars. That's rough. But Tiny didn't stop there. She doubled down, defending her son while still keeping it real about his actions. She said something that really hit. King don't mess with nobody unless they mess with him first. That's that mama bear energy, but also her admitting her boys made some bad calls. Then came the twist. King got released soon after when the bench warrant got dropped. He even went online, flexing with a grin, saying, "I'm a free man. I'm not locked up." Just like that, the storm seemed over. But by then, the damage was done. The blogs had their stories, the fans had their jokes, and King's name was once again tangled in controversy. And that's when the internet exploded with fake reports. King sentenced to 5 years, T.I. crying in court, King jumped in jail. All that clickbait madness that people eat up without checking the facts. But let's set the record straight. Those 5-year sentence rumors? Completely false. No real evidence. Dude walked out free. But this whole situation exposed just how much pressure King's been under. He's a young man caught between 2 worlds. The luxury he was born into and the street life he's trying to prove himself in. People clown him online, calling him a wannabe gangster and saying he's putting on an act for clout. That's got to sting when you're genuinely trying to build your own identity. His arrest also opened up a bigger convo about his relationship with his pops. T.I. himself spoke up, comparing King's behavior to his own younger days, saying, if he keep that up, he's going to prison. Heavy words from a man who's lived that reality. But you can tell T.I.'s walking a fine line, trying to be a real father, while still letting his son face the consequences of his choices. T.I. is also juggling how the world sees him as a father while wrestling with the frustration of watching his son repeat the same mistakes he once made. The difference is, when Tip was out there willed in his youth, he didn't have millions of people online dissecting every bad move. His warning about prison wasn't just some tough love soundbite, it was a prediction born from hard-earned experience. He's been in those streets, he's seen how quick life can spiral from flashy to tragic, and he knows that King's privilege only shields him so far. Keep testing limits, keep racking up charges, and eventually, no fame, no lawyers, no family name can save you from the consequences. What made this whole situation hit even harder was the timing. King was just starting to find his footing as a real artist and stepping into fatherhood. Around this same period, he and his partner, Jania Nana Epps, were expecting their first child. It should have been a time of growth and maturity. Instead, he found himself tangled up in legal problems that completely overshadowed that new chapter of responsibility. It's a pattern we've seen too often in hip-hop. Young men torn between proving their street credibility and embracing their roles as family men. And too many times, that tightrope act ends with both sides falling apart. King's arrest came during what should have been a defining moment of maturity, but instead, it turned into another cautionary story about choices, pride, and perception. This isn't just about mugshots or court appearances. It's about a deeper question. How did a kid born into Atlanta royalty end up fighting so hard to belong to the streets? What kind of pressure drives someone who already has everything to chase danger and validation? We're about to peel that back, the psychology, the expectations, and the pain that come with growing up in the shadow of hip-hop greatness. Growing up Harris and chasing street dreams. Born August 25, 2004, Clifford King Joseph Harris III entered the world with a last name already heavy with fame and legacy. Raised in the spotlight, King's childhood was far from ordinary. He grew up surrounded by celebrity and cameras, starring on VH1's T.I. and Tiny, the family hustle from 2011 to 2017. Imagine that, while most kids were worried about school and video games, King's every move was broadcast on national TV. Millions watched him grow up, every mood swing, every mistake, every laugh, all on display. That kind of exposure can mess with your sense of identity, and despite all the luxury, King often talked about craving something real. He claimed he spent time living with his grandmother in tougher Atlanta neighborhoods, not for show, but to experience what he called real life outside of fame and comfort. Some people clown him for that, saying he's playing gangster. But if you really think about it, maybe he was just searching for something authentic, trying to understand where his pops came from before the awards, before the money, before the spotlight.
And in fact, like, a lot of people, I feel like you gotta start putting out the business. Like, not that, I feel like you're so chill, you don't care about putting out the business.
The dream of making music started early for King. Growing up under the shadow of one of Atlanta's greatest rappers, he picked up the MIC while most kids were still figuring out who they wanted to be. Influenced by his dad's legacy, he adopted the stage name Keedon, inspired by Dragon Ball, a mix of anime passion and southern trap energy. That's a wild combo, blending Japanese animation with gritty Atlanta storytelling. King started dropping songs, building up his online presence, and trying to prove himself in a game where people already had expectations. Either he'd blow up because of his last name or flop because of it. But beyond the rap dream came something that really shifted his focus: love. Enter Jania Nana Epps, an Atlanta beauty who brought some calm to his chaos. Their connection became public around mid-2024 when rumors spread that she was pregnant. But this wasn't some clout-driven relationship for social media. This was something genuine, real affection, real commitment, and a real reason for King to slow down. In August 2024, T.I. confirmed during an interview on Atlanta's Hot 107.9 that his son was expecting a baby boy. Picture that, Tip, one of the most respected voices in the city, proudly announcing he's about to be a granddad. That moment had to hit different for King. Imagine hearing your pops tell the whole city your personal news. That's the reality of being hip-hop royalty. Privacy doesn't exist. Your life becomes a headline. The couple held a baby shower in October 2024, celebrating the upcoming arrival of their son with a blue-themed event. By November, Little King Jr. entered the world. But just when it seemed like life was stabilizing, things took another wild turn. In January 2025, King went viral during an Instagram live where he dropped a bombshell about his relationship. He explained that Nana allows him to see other women, as long as it's private and not emotional. Yeah, you heard that right. King said is allowed to cheat in peace. No drama, no feelings attached. The internet went crazy. Some people called it mature and open-minded. Others said it was pure disrespect and a ticking time bomb. But it got people talking, and once again, King was the center of controversy. At the end of the day, relationships are personal. If both people cool with their setup, that's their business. But love and music ain't the only headlines King's made. His temper and pride have sparked real problems too. One of the biggest family feuds hit on November 26, 2023, at an Atlanta Falcons game. King hopped on Instagram Live mid-argument with T.I. and Tiny, clashing with them about whether he really grew up hard or just had a silver spoon. That moment went viral fast, raw, unfiltered, and messy. Then, in February 2024, King got into it with comedian Drewski, after Drewski poked fun at King's stand-on-business catchphrase. Instead of laughing it off, King exploded on Live, calling Drewski fat, threatening to beat him up, and throwing out all kinds of disrespectful insults. That rant wasn't just aggressive, it was immature, especially since Drewski's whole career is built around making jokes about public figures. King took it personal and turned it ugly. That whole incident showed how easily King's emotions can take over. The body shaming and violent threats didn't show toughness, they showed insecurity and lack of control. Real confidence would have been letting the joke slide or clapping back with something clever. Instead, he went straight to personal attacks, proving he still struggles with criticism. The beef eventually died down. Maybe someone close to him stepped in, maybe Tia made a few phone calls. But by then, the internet had already made its judgment. It was another example of how fast King's temper can derail his progress. And just when you think that's the end of his viral moments, there's the Waffle House incident from May 2022. King got into a heated back and forth with employees after a mix-up in his order, and he posted the whole thing online. Most people would have just left hungry, but King? He turned a late-night meal into a viral argument. The internet clowned him hard for it, with people joking, "What you got against Waffle House, bro?"
They violated.
What do you got against Waffle House?
See, when they made my sandwich, as you can hear in the video, no pickles. And it
What do
wasn't
you
the
got
pickles.
against pickles?
Believe it or not, that infamous Waffle House incident all started over pickles. King ordered a sandwich with no pickles, but when he opened it up, boom, there they were. Not only that, he claimed it looked like someone had poured water on the sandwich and massaged it. Disgusted, he jumped on live to vent, calling the staff out and showing the soggy sandwich to the world. He said, the pickle was on top of the sandwich, not even in it, repeating that it looked like someone drenched it on purpose. And while the situation might sound petty, it reflected something much deeper. A young man caught between privilege and pain, still figuring out who he really is. On one side, he's got it all: money, fame, a powerful family name, and opportunities most people would kill for. On the other, he's constantly trying to prove he's not soft, that he can earn respect on his own, that he belongs to the streets he raps about. That inner tug-of-war is common among second-generation celebrities. Psychologists even have a word for it: affluenza. Not the legal excuse, but the mindset where wealth and comfort make it hard to develop purpose and identity. You feel guilty for having everything, but you also can't imagine life without it. For King, that pressure shows up as him creating conflict and hardship, chasing validation through struggle that isn't naturally his. He's out here looking for chances to prove he's tough, real, and connected to street life. But because he grew up in privilege, it often comes off as forced to people who actually live that reality. That's part of what makes his story so complex. His relationship with his parents hasn't made things easier, either. Ty has always tried to raise his kids with discipline, using his own rough past as a blueprint. But King's been determined to carve his own path, even if that means making public mistakes or embarrassing the family name. It's that eternal father-son clash, the old-school lessons versus the new-school rebellion. And in hip-hop families, that tension hits even harder because the culture itself glorifies authenticity born from struggle. T.I. earned his stripes through real pain, poverty, arrests, survival. But how do you pass that kind of credibility to a kid who's never had to fight for basic survival? By March 2025, though, it looked like things were finally cooling down. King started reflecting publicly on his issues with his parents, saying he and his pops were beginning to understand each other better. He even compared their relationship to Ghost and Tariq from the show Power, father and son constantly clashing but still bound by love and legacy. That's real growth, showing his starting to mature and see things from both sides. Now, the question is, how did the culture react? Because when you live online, your every move becomes public debate. The reaction to King's ups and downs has been wild, a mix of laughter, sympathy, and harsh truth. The hip-hop world and social media didn't hold back. This is where we see how fast the internet can shape an artist's image, either destroying them or giving them a shot at redemption. Career impact and hip-hop's reaction. As always, Twitter, or X, had jokes for days. The timeline turned into a roast session with users saying things like, "He wanna be a street dude so bad," and "Bro was born to a millionaire but trying to catch a felony for respect." And honestly, that's some brutal honesty right there. People pointed out the irony of someone with every blessing trying so hard to play a part that could ruin his life. The memes came flying, users comparing King's look to Garlic Knots, making jokes like the Garlic Knot strikes again with clips of T.I. looking frustrated in the background. But it wasn't all trolling and jokes. Some folks saw deeper than the headlines. One post said, "This boy been crying for help for years and no one close to him is listening, and now he's got a baby on the way." That hit different. Beneath the bravado, some could see a kid who's clearly struggling to figure out who he is, under the pressure of fame and family expectations. Over on Reddit, the conversations were longer but carried the same message. People labeled him a Nepo baby acting out street fantasies, someone who grew up in luxury but tries to emulate struggle for clout. In short, the internet wasn't buying the act, but many still hoped he'd turn things around before it's too late. The Reddit crowd really went in on the authenticity question. They weren't buying King's street persona at all. But the hip-hop community's response was a little more complicated. Most established artists stayed silent, probably not wanting to get caught up in family business or be seen as kicking someone while they're down. Still, That silence spoke volumes. If King had earned real respect in the culture, more people would have stepped up, either to defend him or to offer some guidance. Now, let's talk about how all this drama has been impacting King's music career and future prospects. At 21, he's still building his brand as Kid Cyan, trying to carve out a lane as an independent artist. His 2025 EP Be Ready leaned heavy into trap influences and personal storytelling. But legal troubles complicate everything, from touring opportunities to collaborations and label deals. Think about it from a business perspective. Labels and promoters see potential, but they also see risk. Pending cases, probation, or travel restrictions all threaten their investment. On top of that, public perception paints him as a troubled Nepo baby riding his father's coattails, a narrative that alienates both fans and industry insiders. Still, King's got a few advantages. His family ties give him a built-in safety net. With T.I. still promoting his music and pulling strings behind the scenes, King's better positioned than most up-and-coming rappers. And controversy isn't always bad. If handled right, it can boost visibility and build mystique. The August 2025 bodycam footage from his arrest confirmed key details but added no new charges related to the weed or gun found during the stop. Even so, the footage disappointed fans who hoped King had turned a corner. His hard-headed, business-first persona has been both his blessing and his curse. It attracts young fans who admire that raw energy, but it also draws heat when his actions don't align with his words. King's effort to project street credibility despite a privileged background created a clear disconnect with audiences who crave authenticity. The fallout hit his brand, too. King built his online image around being real, being tough, being about that life. But when legal trouble, family drama, and public feuds keep piling up, it starts to look less like authentic street energy and more like reckless decision-making. That kind of chaos can hurt streaming numbers, social media traction, and sponsorships as brands grow cautious around controversy. Yet ironically, fatherhood might be the thing that saves his career. The birth of his son in November 2024 seems to have grounded him, with T.I. publicly supporting his growth as a man and as an artist. Fans love redemption arcs. They want to see young artists stumble, learn, and evolve. If King can channel these experiences into his music and show real maturity, this could become part of his origin story instead of his downfall. But beyond King himself, his situation speaks to something much bigger in hip-hop. His story shines a light on how fame and legal trouble collide for second-generation artists, and how much harder it is to earn credibility when you start from privilege. As a Nepo kid, King's struggles have become a mirror for larger conversations about privilege in rap, a genre built on real struggle and survival. His controversies could even influence how labels scout new talent, pushing them to value authenticity and lived experience over celebrity lineage. The misinformation surrounding his case also exposed how quickly rumors can snowball. Unverified claims of prison sentences and jail fights spread across YouTube and gossip blogs, none of which were true, but by then, thousands had already believed them. That's the danger of viral narratives in the social media age. And through it all, the Harris family dynamic stayed front and center. T.I.'s mix of tough love and public support showed how hard it is for hip-hop fathers to guide sons growing up under the spotlight. It's one thing to survive the streets, it's another to teach your child how not to walk back into them. Looking at the long-term picture, King's story might actually benefit from all this controversy, if he plays it right. Hip-hop loves a comeback story. It loves seeing young artists crash, learn, and rise again. His reconciliation with T.I. by early 2025, with both men owning their parts in the drama, showed a real shift in maturity. That growth could lead to better music, deeper reflection, and stronger connections with fans. The online reactions also revealed just how invested people are in watching young black men succeed, or fail. Some of the criticism came from a place of love. People who genuinely want better for King, who wish he'd use his privileges to uplift instead of chasing street credibility. But others, they enjoyed the spectacle. They took pleasure in watching a privileged kid stumble, in seeing someone who had it all still fumble his opportunities. What's undeniable is that King Harris now represents something bigger than just his own legal drama. He's become a symbol of the complicated relationship between privilege and authenticity in hip-hop, the pressure second-generation artists face to prove themselves, and the way social media twists every move into a narrative of its own. The hip-hop community's reaction, or the silence from it, says a lot, too. When established artists stay quiet, it sends a message. When fans mock instead of support, when blogs chase clicks instead of truth, it exposes some harsh realities about how we treat young people in the spotlight. Still, King's story isn't over. At 21, with a new son and renewed ties to his family, he's got time to rewrite the script. He could turn all this into growth, use his experiences to make mature, meaningful music that connects with people walking their own line between privilege and pressure. He could show that redemption's real, that lessons can come from mistakes. But the question is, will he? Will King keep chasing validation through reckless choices? Or will he use his voice to talk about the real struggles behind the fame? Will he double down on proving himself to the streets? Or finally embrace who he is? Only time will tell. But one thing's guaranteed: the culture will be watching. Every move, every post, every bar will be judged under the microscope of fame. That's the price of growing up in public, especially when your last name comes with the crown and the curse of hip-hop royalty.